What is up, everybody? How's it going? Lots happened since I last recorded. The U.S. bombed Iran. It's almost St. Patrick's Day. It's a busy time of the year. So today we don't really have a topic. I'm just gonna ramble and talk about a lot of different subjects today. So I hope that's okay with y'all. So I'm gonna jump right in. So I think it's very funny with the war in Iran. First of all, that a lot of conservatives and liberals were saying it's the end of the world, World War III. Literally, oil prices are just skyrocketing. We'll never get cheap oil again. And then yesterday, oil was down to like $75 a barrel. And so funny how people seem to forget that, I don't know, but the world's in the hands of an almighty, omnipotent creator. We really don't have to worry about these things too much. We kind of have a Bible, like a manual that literally tells us what's going to happen. So it's nice. It's pretty handy. And, it's just real great, Also, St. Patrick's Day is coming up on the 17th, is that whatever? And for it, I read St. Patrick's Confessions, and I don't know if you've ever read it. It's a very short book. It's I don't know, 50 pages? Not even. I think it was actually more like 30 pages. I don't know, but very short anyway. And I would very much recommend it. It was pretty good. Not as great as some theological things I've read, but it is very good still. And the confession that he has at the end, which is sort of like a creed, is actually really an interesting, different perspective that I haven't heard before. The one thing I found interesting was the dreams that he was having, and I'm very much I don't believe in miracles happening in the modern day as much, and I know a lot of people disagree with that, but I don't see that happening. But it was a very interesting thing to look at it and see this is some of the things that he was talking about. It's that's unexplainable. And it really shows how mighty and awesome is our God. But it's a very interesting read, so I'd recommend you go check out St. Patrick's Confessions. Very good. Not to be confused with Augustine's Confessions, which I'm also working through right now, but yeah, very, very good. And St. Patrick, if you don't know the story, when he was 16 years old, he was kidnapped from England and taken to Ireland by Irish raiders and was a slave for, I think, 6 or so years. And then he had a dream, and the Lord told him where to find a boat, and he escaped. And I believe he went back home at that point, and then he lived with his family for a little bit, and then he had this dream where the Lord told him to go back to Ireland, to the pagan Irish who had kidnapped him and the culture that he had treated him so horribly, and share the gospel with them. And it's quite interesting, because before this there was really no Christian influence at all in Ireland. It was a pagan culture. But by the end of his life, St. Patrick had baptized thousands of Irish people into the faith. It's a very inspiring story, and he talks a lot about it in the book, and you can learn more about it. I'm sure there's probably lots of biographies and such, but I definitely recommend checking that out. It's very good. I've also been checking out the Catholic Catechism, and I know a lot of Protestants are going to be like, whoa, what are you doing? Well, here's the thing. If you want to defend your faith, you got to understand what other perspectives say. And the first chapter, I couldn't find anything I disagreed with. And I'm looking through it, and the first chapter, I believe, is about God, and what they believe about God is the same as us. And now I'm not ecumenical. I'm not going to say, well, they believe the same about this, so they're going to heaven. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying we do need to find a somewhat common ground with some people to work on the common enemy. Because if you understand the differences, instead of a lot of Protestants take the approach that Catholicism is wrong, so if I meet a Catholic, I'm just going to debate them and tell them they're wrong. But That's not a great approach. If you can meet with a Catholic and tell them, oh, I agree with you on this, but I disagree with this, and you can have an honest conversation while asking questions, you're going to have a much better chance of converting them and learning more yourself. And it's a very important habit is to listen to other perspectives, even ones you very much disagree with, because that's the only way you're going to learn. Now, then there's also a point where there's too much. Like, you can listen to summaries and, like, other people's paraphrases and stuff to learn about it too. Like, for instance, I don't think I'd ever read the Quran, at least in the way my life's going right now, but I know the Quran's false and wrong from what other people, from direct quotes that I've read. I didn't need to read the whole book to find out that it was wrong. You can hear paraphrases and just parts of it, and you can learn about it. But yeah, I'd recommend, actually, as a Protestant, if you're interested in evangelizing Catholics, which you should be, checking out the Catholic Catechism. It's actually a very easy read and pretty enjoyable. And it's enjoyable to read something that actually makes you think, because I find it makes me work double time, because I not only reading to comprehend it, but reading to see, oh, do I disagree with this? Do I agree with this? And it's very good. And on that subject, I was reading, a little bit of Augustine's Confessions, actually. And it's very interesting because even in the first chapter, he talks about salvation through works as not by faith alone. And he mentions child baptism briefly. And I find it very interesting because Protestants often quote him as one of the most important church fathers. And it's interesting because he disagrees with what a lot of Protestants would consider the truth. And I'm just here to ask questions and learn. And so, to any of the Protestants listening in my audience, if you could please comment and tell me which church fathers that are reputable didn't believe in child baptism, because everyone I've ever seen believed in child baptism. The only debate about it was when. Was it right away? Was it a bit later? But they all practiced and believed in child baptism. So I'd be very interested to hear your perspective on that. So please chime in the comments, because I can't learn unless you tell me your perspective and what you think. Because is there something I'm missing? I'm not sure. And also child baptism. R.C. Sproul believed in child baptism, and R.C. Sproul was probably one of the greatest pastors in the last... Actually, R.C. Sproul is one of the greatest pastors in history, so... Also, on other thing, I was reading in my Bible today in Isaiah, which is a very good book. I'd recommend it. Something that I thought was very funny with the way life is going right now. Everyone's talking about silver, and, I'm into that a little bit, but it's not mine. Oftentimes when people find something that is for preparing for the end times or whatever, for, what's the word I'm looking for? A precaution for worse times. Often they use it as an idol that, I'm going to have silver because I don't need God because I have silver. They make it an idol so much that it's like, this is going to save me. This generator I bought's going to save me. This ammo. No, God's going to save you. So you need to be careful with that. But very funny in Isaiah 13, I believe it is. Where is it? Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. It's funny that the Bible says, this is speaking of Babylon, but it's funny, in the end times, gold and silver will be worthless according to the Word of God. And I just found that stood out. I'm like, wow, that is really insightful. And I'll be right back after this break. Welcome back, everybody. And for the first part of the second segment, I'd like to talk a little bit about music. First of all, I just might... look at that. Isn't that beautiful? If you're an audio listener, I just showed off my new Gordon Lightfoot record. It's my favorite record of his. I went to the record store and I'm like, oh. It was a little more expensive than I like to pay, but I'm like, I couldn't not get it. It was, the spirit is strong, but, the flesh, or the spirit is able, but the flesh is strong. Sorry, Apostle Paul. Didn't mean to take you out of context that way. But nevertheless, speaking of that record store, actually, that reminds me. I know I just went off topic, but hey. So, tips. Oftentimes, that they have the new, like, the laptop or the computer or the tablet. That's what I'm looking for. With tip, non 25%, 15%. So what I learned is oftentimes that tip doesn't actually go to the employees. It just goes to the employer. Or a lot of companies, I don't know if they can do this in Canada, but I know in the States, I was listening to a guy and he was saying that the companies, they know how much tips they're going to get per hour, and so they pay the companies, if the minimum wage, I don't know what it is in the States, but it's like 15 here, they'll pay their employees only $10 an hour, because then the 5 from the tips will add up to the proper amount. And so when you're tipping, you're actually just doing the employer's job. And so unless it's a cash tip, you shouldn't tip. Also, I find it ridiculous, like, tipping is now everywhere, and it's like, I tip at the record store that I go to because the service is amazing. They're so nice. They help you. They're so helpful. But also, no, I'm not 100 years old. Records are great. And but it's so dumb. Like, you get a coffee at a fast food place. It took them 2 seconds, and they didn't say one word. They were just, okay. They took your order. They're not even happy, and then they're like, okay, are you going to tip? No, you didn't. You're doing your job. Why would I tip you just when you're not even doing anything out of the ordinary? Whereas I think, like, you're at a restaurant. The waiter is actually, if it's a good waiter, I don't think you should just tip every waiter. I think if there's someone who's friendly, who actually does his job, who comes back, do you want refill, who's just very kind and considerate, remembers your name, that's a big one. But, like, there are some times that people deserve tips, but I don't think we should just pay people who don't really do anything. Why am I giving you extra money just for you to do your job? Okay, that's also my thought. And on that subject, changing the subject again, hey, this is a very convoluted episode, but hey, I haven't been back for a while, so I'm back. We got things to talk about. The same with companies when they ask you to donate to this charity. The company, all they're using that for is a tax break. This company's a multi-billion-dollar company, and I'm already shopping here. Why do I have to give money that they have enough money to pay? I don't have to give this charity because they're just using that as a tax break, so they get money back, and it's ridiculous. That's the same with homeless people when they're on the street asking for money. I don't give it to them because there's so many government programs, too many that people are frauding it, but there's so many government programs that are specifically designed to give people money and to help them with food and stuff. So it's not our responsibility at this point, because in a world where there isn't all these food banks and all these programs and charity programs and stuff, in a world where there isn't that, then you need to do more. But right now, you can go to a food bank and get the food you need. You can go to the government and file paperwork and get money, and people are doing it and abusing the system. But, like, it's not, I don't think it's a common person's job to help right now because the government already has that all set up. And, yeah, that was a nice little rant there. Hope you appreciate it. So, in my spare time, I make music. Not very great, but I try. And the other day I recorded a song that I'm incredibly proud of. And I was wondering, I want to hear about this in the comments. Should I release a song? Because I'm proud of it. It's great. Honestly, greatest song ever. I'm joking. No, but I'm happy with it. That's one thing. That's my one talent. I think hopefully I have more than one talent, but my one talent is I can write a really decent song in like a day. I write a song almost every day, and I'm quite happy with that ability. And, but yeah, I'm curious. Do you want me to release a song? Should I release a song? Do you want me to? That's why you need to go in the comments right now and comment, should I release a song? Of course, you're going to say yes, because, kind of think you've probably never heard my voice, but, well, singing, you've heard my voice. If you're hearing this, you've heard my voice. You've probably never heard my singing voice. Well, maybe. Okay, this is another thing, guys. If you're just listening on Spotify or Amazon Music, or I don't know where it's available. Anyway, if you're listening on those places, which also I look at the stats and nobody's listening on those places. I have 2 people that listen on, one on Spotify and one on, jeepers, Amazon or iHeart or one of those. But nevertheless, so not very great there. But you definitely need to check out my YouTube channel, because I make a short every couple of days. I make lots of shorts, and like really, there's probably 3 shorts out every couple of days, and great content. You get to see lots of bonus content, a lot of political updates if you're into that, a lot of theology, a lot of humor. It's really great. If you want to check that out, I would highly recommend it. Also, that I just did, go to Substack and search for Kaleb MacDonald, and check out my Substack articles. I published one recently called Don't Put Your Politics in My Bible, which I'd recommend you check out because it's a very important subject and very pertinent for today's situation. So yeah, go to Substack, and that's Kaleb MacDonald. And I'd recommend checking that out. And another thing I was thinking about was people put so much attention into names. Names are so important in our world, whether it's the celebrity, it's his name, like, or if you say someone's famous, like Michael Jackson, his name has so much power in our world. And we want to make a name for ourselves. That's the expression we use to get famous, because you want to make a name. But it's interesting because one of the first things, it says in the Bible is when we get to heaven, one of the first things God does is give us a new name. And in the Bible, if you look, like Jacob becoming Israel, when they were destined to change, their name was unimportant. Their name was changed to fit God's plan. In the same way, our name is so unimportant that trying to make a name is useless, because our name isn't important, because we get a new name when we go to heaven. So the name that we make on earth is completely useless. It doesn't matter whatsoever. And that was just something I found very interesting. I was reading my Bible and I was thinking about that. And I might write an article on that. But I definitely recommend you go check out my Substack. Come to think of it, might be The Redeemed Crusader. I'm not sure if that might actually be my username. I'm not sure. I'll check. Check the description and I'll tell you what it is. And, yeah. Yeah, so I'll be right back. Oh, ladies and gentlemen. So I would, totally recommend you go check out my YouTube channel and subscribe. You're going to get political updates. You're going to get to interact with other community members. And also, even if you're not going to watch on YouTube, it really helps if you go to YouTube and subscribe. And the same with Substack. If you go to my Substack and subscribe, even if you don't use Substack much, or YouTube, even if you're not going to watch on YouTube, it really helps boost up in the algorithm, and I need that right now, so I can help spread the message of my of the gospel to other people. Speaking of conspiracy theories, I've been getting really into conspiracy theories that don't matter whatsoever. Like, there's a conspiracy theory that Paul McCartney died in, let me see, what was that? What did it say? I think 1969 is what they say. And then he got replaced with a new Paul McCartney, and that's why in like 1969, John Lennon and Paul McCartney started fighting, because it's a different Paul McCartney. And isn't that just the most unimportant thing you've ever heard? And why did I waste 30 seconds of your time telling you about it? I don't know. But isn't that incredible in the same way? Speaking of which, segue. Sorry, that was really terrible. Did you know the word incredible means not credible? So if you say, dude, that was incredible, what you mean is, dude, that's probably not true. That's not factual. So it doesn't make any sense. The same with, now it's been changed and convoluted, but I think that's the second time I've used that in this podcast. Good word. Romance originally meant fiction. If you were a romance writer, you were a fiction writer, not a romantic fiction writer, just a fiction writer. And romance was just fiction, was all it was. So the word, if you said, the word I like romance means I like fiction. And it's funny because romance often is fiction. It's a kind of an interesting fact that I know everybody was very interested in. Everyone is convinced I have autism and ADHD after this. But I don't have autism. My mom didn't take Tylenol. That was good. I'm joking. Okay, everybody. Okay. I surrender. No, but it's been great to be back. Hopefully I'll be able to do this more regularly, but with school and other things, reading especially, and studying, it is very hard to make time for the podcast. That's why you need to go check out YouTube, because it's hard to sit down and record a podcast and do all the editing. It takes quite a lot of work. But if you can go to my YouTube and check out the shorts and stuff, I can do that quite regularly in my post. It is much easier for me to do, and that way we can stay connected. So y'all go check out YouTube, and subscribe, share, tell one friend about the podcast, please. It really helps. Preferably about the YouTube channel, because that helps. I get lots more views on YouTube, and it's a lot more easy to post stuff on YouTube. Like, you can post on Spotify, it is a real pain in the neck. It is so hard, the way it glitches and stuff. And the same with, I post to a distributor that posts on a bunch of other ones, and it is so difficult. And so it really helps if you watch on YouTube. Also, if you do watch everywhere else, good on you. I'm going to keep posting it there, so don't worry. All right, everybody. Yeah, subscribe, like, comment, especially comment. Should I release a song? And what do you think about child baptism? And anything else, your thoughts. Give me ideas for episodes to do. And did you like the last episode? All right, everybody. This is Kaleb MacDonald with the Talkology Show. And comment and tell me what I should use as a tagline to end the episode. But for today, since I don't have one, I'm going to steal this from Greg Kokel over at Stand to Reason. For today only, give 'em heaven.